Greetings to all. My name is Russ Hatfield, and behind my shoulder is my higher dimensional twin soul and member of Ashtar Command on Hades base, Kara. This is our second editorial where we look back on a life of learning and richness that was a major part of mankind's evolution. Atlantis was a beginning, with us, who were there, as the continuing story of that evolution that has brought forth teachers and seekers of the light to show the way. For a full transcript of this latest editorial, please go to our main homepage at hadesbasenews.com. We invite you to subscribe to be kept informed of future postings on our YouTube channel from the members of Ashtar Command. And now, from Kara and I to those and everyone with an interest in Atlantis, we bring you May's editorial called Atlantis, History's Mystery, What We Know, Part 2, In a Time Out of Mind. There are two absolutes that defined Atlantis and all of history since then. Everything degrades over time, and the universe is a lot smarter than we can ever know. Why did colonists leave one planet to start life on another? Because people, pets, planets, and galaxies degrade until they no longer exist. Atlantis was a chance to change up the paradigm and begin with a new set of rules and conditions to achieve ascension. How smart is the universe? That goal and the participants haven't stopped since then, merely taken a long way around to get to the same location by learning the required lessons first. That is the topic of Part 3, and what we are to cover now is the time after the colonization and life during that time. Through a combination of conjecture and channeled information from the archives, we'll try to put together the pieces of the puzzle that is history's biggest case of a lost civilization. Lacking historical texts makes filling in the blanks a personal matter that is not meant to replace whatever is already known. With parallel universes splitting off constantly since then, there is every conceivable version anyone could take as a likely example. Instead, we wish to present the collective knowledge we have been presented with as the one with some missing pieces for those in their quest for answers from a missing past. They feel very familiar with me in this incarnation due to the personal history with many of the speakers who are a part of the archives in both dimensions. Others may find similar memories triggered by the recall. Let's begin with languages. We know through Corton that each of the 7 races that settled Atlantis had a common language, as well as separate languages they used among their own races. That the home planet they had all traveled from over 6 months was Sirius, it can be assumed that the base language for all the races was Syrian. Kiri has shared the runic symbols with us that symbolize words from their language that are very similar to runic symbols from various ancient races. With 6 other languages included, much of the diversity in languages across the globe could be accounted for due to the mass exodus that took place with the destruction of the continent. The race of indigenous early humans would be genetically altered at some point during the colonization and would be the newly evolved humans that would begin their own civilizations with languages unique to each region of the planet. A common tongue among the various races of Atlantis would have come in handy for trades or the passing of news between races. Look at where it's taken us as a multiracial species in the 21st century. The fact that practically anyone in the world can read these words through the help of translation software shows how technology is bringing us closer to a past we have yet to discover as we discover and unify in the shared experience of our living history. While details of daily life and the exact makeup of life after the colonization were not provided during the channelings to avoid causing interference in our development, some details were provided occasionally that we have stitched together to give our version of what life may have been like. Going on supposition in the archives, we know their technology was far more advanced than ours, just from the fact that trips back and forth to Sirius were still taking place long after the land was settled until they eventually stopped. We know they had anti-gravity transportation that was used to get around to the various parts of the lands and were in use on the day of its final destruction. It's not out of reach to believe computers would have been part of everyday life with how the population of today has embraced that technology. We know there was a central capital that had pyramids devoted to several functions such as healing, where crystals were used to promote healing. Having a population of 7 separate psychic races presents many possibilities of how those mental skills were used. We have those same skills held in reserve thanks to their efforts to create a workforce that would do all their menial tasks and provide an easier life. How did the end start? It started like almost everything does, slowly and almost without notice. It's an old story told throughout history of division and desire for one ideal over another. Billions upon billions have passed into their next lives in campaigns about competing ideals, with Atlantis only one in a long line of civilizations that couldn't get along with each other. As shown by the world's military, technology does not bring about peace, but merely better ways to kill one's neighbors. A source of the conflict we know came from 2 opposing sides who went to war over the proposal to mix the DNA of the Syrian race with that of the dominant indigenous race of the planet so that its genetic makeup was permanently altered. While they became the nearly 8 billion humans alive on the planet today, the purity of the Syrian race was being compromised and the mixing of species was being rejected by one of the sides. The end did not come yet, but we know from a mall that parts of Atlantis were destroyed prior to its final demise through ways that were not explained. It's impossible to say whether the destruction was inevitable. It was another example of people trying to escape one fate by creating another. Where we come from and where we are going is still being answered by those of us who remember, if only unconsciously, of the dream that lives and cannot die in a time out of mind. In love, light, and wisdom as one, Russ and Kara.